Isis, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here. First, because I personally work with you, so I know how transformative your work is. But for anyone who's listening, who's a business owner, and maybe you have your business finances down, but your personal finances you do not have down, this episode is for you. So, Isis, will you just kind of give a short introduction about you and the work that you do?
Sure. Thank you. So my clients often call me a financial Mary Poppins. Maybe it's because when we have that great nanny in our life, right, they just knew how to really love on us, but also to pull out the best in us. And so I feel like, yes, I am an advisor. Yes, I do all of the things that are necessary, all the licenses. But at the end of the day, a lot of people can earn a license, but how do you take who you really are and bring that to the table? So having been an educator all my life and a mother to 4 children, a grandmother to 4 children, it really started to resonate with me one day when I was watching Mary Poppins, the making of Mary Poppins, actually, and how the book came about and the story behind it. And I thought, oh, that's why I've always been so drawn to that particular character. There was a lot in that movie that was frankly irritating, right? If you're watching it over and over with children. But why do we keep coming back to it? Because I think that a lot of us just need that person in our life that's willing to do what needs to be done, to say what needs to be said, to be really honest and help us achieve the greatness that's inside of us.
That's so good. And because I work with you, I feel that I really know that you do that, because when I came to you, I was also a little bit embarrassed because I was like, I have my business life together. Like I have a fractional CFO, I do all the proper things, but my personal life, I was like, I don't have a will. I don't have like life insurance. I don't have this investment thing. I kind of get it, but not really. And I just was kind of I was like DIYing my finances. And when you, first of all, you never made me feel embarrassed whatsoever, but you also always told me the truth, and you showed me like what DIY, from what I hear on Instagram or what I hear on podcasts versus what you can show me with your system on how to do things in the strategic way, in the way that makes the most sense. It's been such a game changer and just giving me so much peace of mind that like my family is taken care of, that I am doing everything I'm supposed to do the correct way. So how did you even get involved in doing this in the first place?
Well, I think a lot of women have a second act, maybe even a third act in their lives. I was an entrepreneur by nature. And I think what you just said really resonates with me, because when I was in my 20s, I knew I was going to be a mom. And so I thought, well, how do I be the best mom I can possibly be? Go and get an education in it, immerse yourself in it. And so I started learning everything I could learn about Montessori education, Waldorf education, homeschooling. And I just started being a sieve, taking in all of the knowledge. And I thought, well, what is it that I want to bring? And I realized it's not about me, actually. It's about what do the people that I'm going to serve need. And so I started to create this environment that was, the purpose of it was to do a couple of things. It needed to be able to support my family because I had to be able to make an income. It needed to be able to support the emotional and physical and mental development of the child who I was about to bring into the world and had, and then later on already was raising. And I had to be able to do it on a dime and figure it out. And so that was my first real experience as an entrepreneur, and saying, okay, now I know what the controllables are, and I'm not going to try to control the uncontrollables, but you bet I'm going to control what I can. Well, all of us are naturally inclined towards certain things that come more easily to us. It was easy for me to get education. It was easy for me to adopt these behaviors, these attitudes. Even things like doing my own taxes came more easily. But, the things that don't come easily, we tend not to notice. So fast forward, I kind of, that business, I outgrow it basically. And I opened up a toy store, an educational toy store. That was the next phase of part of my life. And now I'm running a store, and I've got this brick and mortar, and I'm trying to figure out how to become a merchandiser. Right. I was an educator. Now I'm a merchandiser. And while it's really fun because it's visual and it's creative, the one thing that I never really wrapped my head around was the cost of goods and how to generate real profit. And so you started to see, and this is all in hindsight, of course, we started to see kind of the breakdown of the things I didn't know starting to impact the things that I did know. And you can cover it up for a long time. And I did until 2008. Now I've got 2 stores. I had a clothing boutique. And I'm one of those people that's so passionate about the experience and about what other people are going to have from the experience that I was willing to keep going past the point of no return. And so got myself deeply into debt in that process, but created incredible experiences. I don't know that I would that I would trade it in even at this point, because it was so deeply gratifying for me and the community that I was in. And it was an incredible learning experience. It was also an incredibly expensive learning experience.
I get that. Every time I make a mistake in business, I'm always like, that's my MBA. Like,
Yep.
paid for it the hard way.
Exactly. Yeah. Blood, sweat, tears, and money. And so I thought, okay, it's time. And now it's 2011, 2012, and I start to have this feeling that it's time to get back out into the world. I have 4 children by this point. My husband is a music teacher. He's working in retail as well, right? Kind of cobbling together what is going to serve our family. And I had started Molly B and the King, which was a sewing business. And then I had the awakening that said, you will never be able to make enough money from this passion that you have for making beautiful things to be able to justify the time that it takes.
Wow. That's something that I think it takes people. It's hard to know what should be kept as a hobby and what should be a business.
Exactly. And this had become the most expensive hobby that I could have had, where it was taking my time, my energy, and my resources and leaving me with nothing left behind except for this incredible feeling of having made beauty, right? To create beauty. But in the process, it was humbling because I realized I was about to start doing the same thing again. I was repeating past mistakes. So I said, all right, it's time. You're going to go and you're going to learn everything you can about money. And you're going to immerse yourself in it. And not by spending lots of stuff, but by actually taking the education and internalizing it. And once we truly internalize something and we can turn around and teach it to somebody else, we now have a new skill. And at first I was just doing what I've always done, right? I have to immerse and then I have to apply. All right, I'm going to do that. And then one day, just picture it, I'm standing at this whiteboard and I'm writing out a plan. And this plan is about a family that is raising their grandchild, right? So I'm immersed in this world of kind of impoverished thinking, right? And it wasn't the impoverished thinking that the parents had passed down, but that the child had now passed to the grandchild. And these decisions were going to change everybody's lives. And I wish I could tell you that I changed their life. I don't know that I did. They chose not to be a client, but it changed my life because I was reading what I had put out on the whiteboard because I was getting ready to teach it to them. And I was including things like taxes and income and all of these different things. And I went, oh my gosh, this is what I am supposed to be doing. I thought I
Amazing.
was here for an education. I'm here to create my business and change the world one ripple at a time.
Because you often end up whatever you need the most and you wanted money education at that time, then that's what you actually can give to others. Because you're right, we don't grow up learning enough about money in school, and maybe the education we have about money isn't correct. So it took you actually having to figure it out for yourself to realize not only did you need it, but so many people
Yeah.
still need it desperately.
And I'd be honest, I was shy of it, right? I had this great desire, and I think a lot of business people do this. We have this great desire, and we even have skill behind it, but we're still nervous because we know it's our own Achilles heel. And so we're nervous to go out and tell the world because we think that we should be perfect before we do. And it was through networking. And actually, that's how we got brought into each other's worlds. And so through this networking, I started to meet different people, and different people started to pour back into me. And I was sitting with this man during COVID. So it was just the beginning of 2020. And I'd known him for probably a year already. And he says, I want to work with you. And, because we already had a rapport, I said, why? Well, why do you want to work with me? And he says, because you get it. You've been there. Your story tells my story. And I went, oh, that's it. And I realized at that point that was my superpower, was that I had lived it and done it. And here I was ready to be able to overcome it with people instead of telling them what to do.
Agreed. I think when you started talking a lot about being a mom, I think that really resonated with me because I was like, that's me. Like, you get my stage of life, you get what it's like to have a 2 and a 4-year-old and be doing business and also trying to make sure your finances are in order. And it was really nice to have someone who's been exactly in my same steps and could help me kind of navigate. One question I had for you is, so business owners, I'm sure, look, I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast are business owners, and we are naturally the most optimistic people in the world, like delusionally optimistic. So can you chat about how you work specifically also with entrepreneurs or business owners, and maybe things that they need to be more aware of because we're so optimistic and we think nothing can go wrong? How do you work with us in this niche? We're like, we are different as a group.
Yeah. That was so well said. And it can be a challenge because it's not my role to come in and dash anybody's dreams, right? We have enough of that. That's in abundance already. And by nature, I'm not a person that says, oh, well, you better toughen up because the world is a hard place or things like that. Like, that just is not who I am. But at the same time, I think the entrepreneur, one of the reasons why they are so optimistic is because in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to see ahead like 10 miles. And you have to keep your focus on that goal the entire time. And I think the reason that I exist in this space for the entrepreneur is because I am equally capable of seeing that 10-mile goal, maybe even the 100-mile goal, and being absolutely enthusiastic about it and believing that it is going to happen. And then at the same time, also having this reality side of my brain that is able to kick in and live side by side, that says, and the reality is, or statistically, right? We can use either of those two terms, that these things happen to somebody. These challenges are going to occur. We just don't know which ones are going to be yours. But nothing is new. under the sun. So we can make a plan to make sure that no matter what, you're going to be fine. When we start thinking of all things in, say, buckets or levers or right, whatever that is, we're always filling multiple. We always have multiple sources that are filling. And so it just allows us to be able to go, oh, so that one dried up. That bucket, that spigot doesn't fill that bucket anymore. Okay, well then disregard it. Give it a break. Right? And we're going to put our attention over here and we're going to come up with another way to solve for the same need. So what's the ultimate need? Every entrepreneur wants to take care of themselves. They want to make an impact and they want to be able to take care of anybody who's relying on them. Whether that's for a parent, obviously it's our kids, our partner, our business partners, our employees. So if we know all of the facts, we know all the constants, we know the things that can't be left to chance. Now we just freed ourselves up to be able to dream even bigger.
100%.
Yeah. So let them live and coexist together. But it's too much to ask of an individual to do that in a silo. They need somebody that they can have these conversations with and who will draw out their vision and also shore up the shortcomings at the same time.
Yes, 100%. I remember when we were working together, you asked me like, what did I have a dream trip or a dream thing I wanted to save up for? So it's like, you can have that big dream and this is how you're going to get there by saving this much or investing this much. And so you kind of, you put like the reality and the strategy behind the big dream of any entrepreneur or business owner.
Thank you. Yeah. It's something I'm really proud of, that I have the left brain, right brain that lives together. And I think we can all train that more. But yeah, we all have our natural skills. And thank goodness that one's one of mine.
Yeah. 100%. Now I come from the Dave Ramsey world. That's how I grew up. And we've even had a guest on this podcast before who teaches kind of like the baby steps. So I know you have thoughts about Dave Ramsey. So for anybody else out there who's like, that's kind of been their money education is Dave Ramsey, what would you say to that?
Oh, I love it, right? Dave Ramsey entered into a space that was devoid of truth. So often what he's teaching is great theory that when applied will create magnificent results. Why do I not personally teach the Dave Ramsey method then? Might be your next question.
Right.
I do. I teach it, but I apply it. And for the average person, when they look at information, so you get a book and you're told snowball your debt. One of the greatest things you could possibly do, by the way. However, debt's not the enemy. Leveraging debt is a skill and a tool. Being leveraged by debt is the enemy. And so I think what happens in an effort to simplify some knowledge and application of it to the point where anybody can pick it up and do it, we've oversimplified it to the point where we're saying anybody can do this on their own. Well, you can, but the problem is that wherever you go, you go. You arrive there, right? So what do I mean by that? Like if I already have this particular habit or this way of doing something or this need to be filled in some way, I'm going to continue to do those things that are getting those results. And I might end up doing it over and over and over. Here's an example of that. One of the questions that I ask a person who is really good at getting debt free is, and when you make a big payment on that debt, You've got that credit card and you just threw $3,000 at it. How do you feel? I feel great, right? And they're so
Right.
proud and they're telling me, they're smiling, they're beaming. And I go, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Is it maybe like a dopamine rush? And then all of a sudden the face kind of goes, and then it goes, oh, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So whatever we can do to create that dopamine rush, we're likely to do it again.
Smart.
So what are we doing? Well, we're going to rack up the debt again. We're going to come into some more money. We're going to throw it at the debt. And all of a sudden, boom, we're feeling amazing. How long does that amazing feeling last?
Right. It goes away because you want to do it again.
Exactly.
And you prove to yourself you can pay it off.
Yeah.
But now you're in that cycle.
Exactly. So what about if instead we said, hold on, there's a whole series of things that need to be dealt with all at once. We need to take this slow. We need to make a new habit. We're going to take all the debts. And by the way, no, we're not going to try to make sure that it's the highest interest first, because there's more information there. Yeah. Our mind wants to attach to one or two pieces of information, but there's actually multiple pieces of information. And some of them are in the story. What do I mean by that? Well, what if you need to buy that new car? What if you need to buy that tractor to remove the snow that keeps, that you keep on having to go out and shovel? Is it wrong to buy it? No, absolutely not. Is it in your benefit to put it into your entire debt plan and now strategize it even before you've made the purchase? Absolutely. Because now we're entering into that decision making with completely new information available to us, which then helps us to develop new facts. And when we have new facts, we go into that buying situation with a whole new confidence about us. We're not going to say, oh, I like green. Oh, he told me I could buy it and, have that payment. And he said, you better do this. And we're just following directions, right?
Right.
But instead we're saying, no, this is what my payment needs to be. This is how much I'm willing to spend. And you know what? Frankly, I'm not that interested in what the interest rate is, because I know I can pay this off however I want.
Right.
So I'm going to snowball that. You may be telling me my payment need is going to be $615. Well, I'm looking down the line and I'm saying that in about six different debts, I'm going to be making a $2,500 a month payment on that. So I've just changed the reality of the information that I was provided.
Exactly. That's powerful.
Yeah, isn't it? And you can't do that on your own because we are not capable of being objective.
Yes, agreed. It is very hard to do that. So when you work with someone, is there kind of a checklist of things you do to make sure that they're financially healthy? I know for us, it was I don't have a will set up. That's one item. If someone's listening to this and they're I'm not sure if I need a financial advisor. I don't know. I have some of this I'm doing right. I don't know about the others. What are some things that would help them realize whether they should reach out to you or not?
Yeah. I think the thing that really was eye-opening for me when I first looked at this. So I always try to remember, what was it like the first time, right? Not just Valerie Bowden when she looked at it for the first time, but what was it like when Isis Latham looked at it for the first time? The first thing that I understood that really changed my life was I said, whoa, there's 7 areas of finance? I thought it was debt and income, right? And savings. Yes. That's 3, right? No, there's 7 areas. And so when you start looking at it as all things protection, all things retirement, right? And there's more to each one of those, but I'm just going to say, what are my protection sources? Am I spending too much? Am I not spending enough? And that has to take up a percentage of the pie of your financial world.
Mm.
And if it's not the right percentage, if it's too high or it's too low or it's imbalanced inside of it, well, then we're just inviting problems.
Yep.
And so there's our protection. Then there's our retirement strategies. But so many people are so invested in their protection strategies that they're not investing into their retirement strategies.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the next piece becomes, okay, well, what's my estate preservation? I had this business. I had 2 children at the time. I had no will, no durable power of attorney. If something happened to me, I'm an adult. Nobody else can just speak on my behalf. That means it goes to a court. And we don't think about those things. The moment we're over the age of 18, it's our responsibility to have a document in place that says, you take care of my health care. You take care of my finances. You take care of my children, right? All of these things. And so I didn't have it. And then I felt ashamed by it. And then I was like, no, stop feeling ashamed. Ashamed is a terrible thing to be. Instead, feel empowered by the fact that I now know and I can do something about it.
Yeah. That's a good reframe.
Thank you. The next one is debt elimination. Yes. Do we want to eliminate debt? Absolutely. What is the purpose? So that we can get to retirement, so that we can be financially independent and free. But in the meantime, I work with people who are trying to take on a mortgage. They're trying to buy investment properties. They're making some of the biggest debt decisions they'll ever make in their life. And so, hallelujah, because we get to move into those decisions with a plan and a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is going to be your income and your investments. And yes, a spending plan is part of it.
Yeah.
Right? And why do we go through the exercise? We don't say, well, this is what I am going to spend. We say, oh, this is what I have been spending. And the number of people who tell me that they've worked with an advisor who never entered into that part of the planning with them. And I think, oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that is.
How did they know you had enough money to be able to make the decisions you were making?
Right. 100%.
Yeah. And then we have our credit and our identity. We have to monitor it, right? We're all online. And this is now part of our financial strategy, that we have to be able to be aware of what's our solution. What's going to happen if we have a breach? Do we know step 1, 2, 3, 4, right down the line? And are we prepared to try to do that on our own? And if we're not, then we need to have the right resources in place. And then the last one is tax deferral strategies. And your bookkeeper, your CPA can't do it without your advisor. We all have to join forces around the individual and come up with a strategy. And we can't do it without those people. So, it's time to be a team.
Right.
But once you get all 7 areas of that, you're going, oh, well, most of us are needing a little strategic alignment inside of that.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think the average person has all 7 of those really lined up, because it is a lot of work actually to set it up and set it up right.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, like, if you don't have it and you need it, then you're kind of screwed. So it's like you need to take care of it.
There's pieces that we don't get to go back and fix. You mentioned it when you said will and durable power of attorney and life insurance. Those ones have to be proactive. Retirement savings, well, we need time, right? Time is our greatest asset in that area. But we can make up for some of those things if we have a strategy that's been crafted specifically for us. The things we can't make up for are like if we're no longer here. And that's hard. Those are hard conversations to talk about.
It is.
And it's not going to happen to us, but the reality is it's happening to someone.
100%. Yep, 100%. Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit because you work with one of our marketing assistants.
Hmm.
So tell me, first of all, what made you realize that you needed someone? And because you're in the financial world, it is a little bit more regulated.
Yeah.
So what are some extra precautions you've had to do to set it up correctly to make sure you're following everything you need to be following?
Yeah. A lot of it has to do with the talent that you hire. They have been really skilled at asking for the right things.
Hmm.
Is it okay if I say her name?
Oh, go for it.
I think she is just amazing. So some people might know her as Elle. I learned how to say El Batel right
Mhm.
away
Yep.
because it's such a beautiful name. And this individual, my person who I brought on as a VA through Cradle, was really instrumental in helping me to learn new tools and new systems that I wanted to apply into my business, but didn't necessarily have the time or energy to learn it on my
Hmm.
own. And so what we did was right away, we just said, okay, this part is all compliance oriented.
Hmm.
This part has less compliance around it, but because it's part of the financial industry, it still has compliance. And so we did things like get a brand book put together.
Hmm.
We have marketing books that we utilize. So we know what can be said and what can't be said. And she became extremely self managing, I would say,
Hmm.
very quickly because she knew what the right things were to ask for. And so we just started putting them all into our kind of our resources catalog, if you will. And so she can go there and look. And I am so proud to say that in my industry, you will always get emails telling you these are the things that need to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Take them down. Well, I used to spend hours and hours going through that myself and managing it. I had one come in since she started. It had 3 items on it.
Hmm.
And within the day, it had all been adjusted. And
Wow.
and she then took that information, and this is what we hope for, right? Took the information and applied it to everything else so that she's now
Wow.
being proactive with the information and the resources that she's being provided with.
Oh, that's so amazing. Yeah, shout out to Elle. I think she's first of all so good at what she does, but she's also just like a delightful person, like always in such a great mood and like her personality is like adorable. But then you're right, her when I hear the way she talks about marketing and LinkedIn, I'm like, you are dead on. Like everything you're describing is what I also preach. And she's just, yeah, so highly skilled.
Yeah.
And I do remember seeing like the hashtags you can't use. And I was like, wow. But it's great to know that you can be in a regulated industry and hire an assistant and you just have to make these workarounds.
And I'm a believer now that I think just about everybody should have a VA. And the reason that
Agreed.
I feel this way is I was reading the 4 Hour Work Week.
Hmm.
And what really struck me in this, and what I've been sharing with a lot of people, is that he was saying if you want to be self employed, you have to learn how to manage other people.
Mhm.
Or you will be self employed forever, right? The goal is have a business, not to just be
Mhm.
self employed. And he said, so this is one of the best ways that you can learn how to manage another person, how to communicate properly, how to get things accomplished. And and that it really should be, it should just be part of our system. Because if I'm focusing on things that are not my natural skill set, then I'm using up time, energy, and resources. And somebody's going to pay for that.
Mhm.
And I don't want my clients paying for the fact that I'm busy coming up with a marketing plan when instead I could be busy helping them to achieve their goals.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, people need to know more about money and more about how to manage and delegate. Those are like the two skills that should be taught in university. Okay, last question for you. It's a question we ask every guest.
Okay.
Um, have you ever been to Africa? And if not, that's okay. But if I could give you a free plane ticket, is there a country or like an experience or a bucket list item that you would want to do?
So I have not been. I really want to go. And in our conversations, Elle has said, if you come to Africa, I want to show you around. And so I would go right there.
Cool.
And
yep, in Ethiopia.
because
That's
I am a
great
kind of person,
mm-hmm.
I would want to know what she would want to show me because I don't know anything about it yet.
Oh,
and
that's the best part.
Yeah,
is that you don't know, you only hear about the bad things. So I know for me, when I was traveling, then like now you get to see the good things that you've never heard about before. So like every day is like a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. No, I would definitely I would want to be shown the world that she lives in and that she finds beautiful. Just like she'll ask me, oh, I wish I could have snow. I'm like, oh, I wish I could give it to you.
No, you don't. That's hilarious. That's great. And then Isis, for anybody who's listening today, that's like, okay, I need to meet with you and just know if I need help or not, or they know for sure they want to. Where do people find you at?
Yeah. The best places are going to be on Facebook or LinkedIn. Fortunately, with a name like Isis Latham, there is only one. You can find me. And just, drop into my messenger, drop into my my inbox in LinkedIn, and just introduce yourself. And I promise you, that is probably going to be the scariest moment for you, is the introducing yourself and saying, I want some help. After that, my clients just say, oh, it's a win-win, right? You don't get paid unless I get the service and needs met that I have. Absolutely. So we'd have a complimentary discovery call. We'd make sure that we're in alignment, that I can see that there are actionable steps that we can achieve within our next 2 meetings after that. And there's no gotcha. I'm not going to send you a bill. If I can't serve your goal, then I'll be the first one to say it, because I want my clients to be with me for a lifetime. And if they feel nickeled and dimed, then that's just not a win-win kind of relationship.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I have talked to other financial advisors, and what scared me is that they either had expensive fees or they wanted to take a total percentage. And you don't work like that. You essentially, there's no fees. So for anybody who's like, that sounds good, I'll get the links. I'll put them in the show notes. And I definitely encourage everyone to reach out to you. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This was fun. I appreciate it.